We are to let people know that the real universes do exist, because the pig head beliefum systems have convinced the potato heads of Potato Planet that there is no light past what they have produced, she said. I watched as the pig-headed brats were making their plans to overdrug the public from every means possible. Almost all of the diseases and plagues that the potato heads have experienced have been manufactured by the pig brats. J.D. Rockefeller was one of the most notorious of them all. You can see his picture on the wall over there, she said, as Ursha pointed to a bunch of crookedly hung, pig-headed portraits. As I looked at the slimy, framed, yucky pictures, I decided I had had enough of this place and said, "Can we go now?" She laughed as we both flew straight up and above the yucky place. I could suddenly smell some better air. Then off we went into the sky until we were once again back into a better dimension. I was glad to see the blue sky of this realm. Part 3. I want to write about some of this in this book, miss. It's time that people knew what has been taking place right under their noses. It amazes me how all of life is right in front of us, but we need real guidance to get through it and to see it, I said as we were now back in our room in the treehouse. I have something for you. Watch this scene where Rebazar is bringing Paul into the rod of power. Notice the reaction of the true reality to Paul. See how it swirls around him and emanates like an all-aliveness and excitement throughout him. This is because of Paul's real intent and true heart. The All-Is has picked him because it knows he can handle it and loves it so very dearly. Now, here is another scene with Durwood, as the boys are in the Valley of the Real with him when his time came as a test. Watch what happens as Rebazar brings Durwood close to the true reality. See how it moves about at first, as though it is hesitant. The boys know what is taking place, and at the same time, Durwood still has a physical body, and they want someone to at least attempt the real position with the rod of power, because they wanted to try and save Paul's creation. Those who were not the real guides and who were present at this moment were only seeing what they did from a certain angle. As they were standing in the present tense, in front of this scene, the true reality did not actually engulf Durwood, but was more so in back of him several feet away. But from the view of the onlookers, it did appear as though Durwood was standing in it. Unless a person has a true insight, their personal self will judge the experience, as their real awareness is not ready to perceive what is truly taking place with this true reality. Next, we have Gerald, and so watch this. Here is Rebazar again, and bringing Gerald up near the position. But Gerald is a bit hesitant and a little afraid. That is why he wanted to wait for another year. Look at how the true reality has moved even further back from him. Also, as the scene moves around him, you will notice there are no onlookers, because the boys didn't want others to see what was really taking place. They were happy with the idea that the membership would just hold together until they got you ready. No person on earth truly understands what a true sincerity it takes to handle the rod of power, plus so many other qualities most people have never even heard of. Also, we must refer to the experience we had where Paul manifested to him. While he was walking across the street one day, and Paul appeared as a beggar and said to him, while they were stopping traffic, "Why are you embarrassed of me?" Gerald was the good little errand boy, and he really did want to be somebody, but he didn't have the courage the boys wanted him to have. But he was at least loyal to their cause, and so they gave him a try. It really took a lot of convincing on their part to get him as far as this scene here. Once Gerald started to get the hang of what the boys were presenting to him, he began to see and realize there was a lot more benefit than what he first saw as a huge job to surmount. But then Gerald suddenly saw himself as the worshipped master with the membership. Well, of course, the boys could see every little attitude of Gerald's, but they were not concerned, except for getting someone in to hold things together. You still had a lot of training to go through before they could get you ready, so Gerald was the next best thing. Rather humorous, huh? Now here comes the fun part. In 2001, when you met with Gerald and he went off with Crony and the influence, as you walked up to Paul, who was standing under the tree of your life, look at how the true reality jumped for the chance to enter you. This is why you felt the jolt you did when it came directly into you. It knew exactly how you felt and what your real intent is. And so, just like you, it overdosed you with itself. The boys knew you had to take it on, and they knew it would be too much for you, but you were all that was left on the entire earth to do it. They were considering Phil, as you had experienced in your dream vision of him on the wave next to you, but just like in your experience, he took off in a different direction, which meant he would have just followed what Gerald was doing. Besides, Gerald did not want to let go of what he now had and which has become his only. Also, he would have taken a beating from Crony, so they didn't attempt anything with him. He wrote some very good books, but he didn't have the courage to create the new presentation the way you have now. I liked Phil, as he is very honest, but too shy for this task, and he wouldn't have explored the world systems the way you have and discovered all the hidden secrets. You have confronted the earthly gods, and they did listen for a moment or so, and so we shall see how all these arrogant humanoids end up this time around. We will have fun writing this book together, Dwayne. In this scene, I will be showing you how Durwood met the influence and how she came to him, but he never let the membership know about her because he didn't want to rock the boat. Besides, he kind of liked her as he was a seducer himself, very similar to her. When he stepped into the position with the corporation as the master in the background, rather hidden, but still lingering, there was his real intent, which was all about himself first of all. He knew it, but he projected a front for himself and others to accept. And the boys knew this too, but they wanted to see if he would develop the real courage to do something real. Now that we can look closely at what Durwood did, we see how he maneuvered himself into what eventually showed up for him. I know that some of your new students are rather tired of hearing about Durwood and Gerald, but they haven't gotten the full lesson yet as to what has taken place and how what they did has a great bearing on all that is taking place on the earth now. Again, where is the real courage with these people? Many of them are still afraid, as they have their good lives and their even better excuses to stay the same as they have always been. That is why you never wanted a membership, and you are not concerned whether people take your course or not, because you have taken the time to make a great gift for them, yet they still see it as another discourse to sign up for. They do see the fact that they have so much more to realize and accomplish than just being satisfied with their outer life and how they feel about things. Yes, there are those who are still bored hearing about Durwood and Gerald, but they are never bored with all the lies and deception of all the presidents and politicians that were after Jackson and Kennedy. Not at all. What will any of these people really ever do? Paul and Rebazar have given them so many hints, yet they still sit on their rears and expect you to keep performing for them. And at the same time, will they support what you are doing? You give your wonderful books away to people, and for the most part, they never have time to read them. Yet everything they are looking for to save their little bitty lives is in those pages. The true reality is expressing itself with every word you write, because you are so centered in it. The earth is coming to a very possible end. As the inner psych realms are collapsing, as you have laid out in your writings. In Paul's time, the fifth level was the soul plane, but all of that has changed as you were shown. There is a part of the etheric level that is a true spirituality, but there is also the darkened area of the subconscious, which Crony controls over the membership. By her very control with the tap line she has embedded into the membership, they are held to an even lower position than that of Durwood's members. We have went over some of this in New Book 3, and as of several years ago, Durwood left his physical body and is now having to deal with what he did to his followers, as he can no longer move about, she said. Yes, I have seen him, and he is restricted to the lower astral levels and must work with those he became responsible for. Paul never did what Gerald and Durwood did, and he went right into the all-is when he suddenly left the earth from the poisoning given to him. Paul was doing what I am doing, that of interfacing with everything that is taking place on the earth and up into the psych realms. Durwood will not have a lot to do with all those who have looked to him. Durwood will now have a lot to do with all those who have looked to him as the earth takes on whatever is still possible to happen, I said. As we both know, Paul talked about the influence as the shadow in his dream book, but he never really defined her as you have in your writings. Well, Durwood was introduced to her as you were when you were Goldie, but she appeared to you as a man at the time. The boys always let the influence come around to those they are looking at to take on a big position to be responsible for, because they want to see how a person reacts, which they already know, but they always let a person exercise their free will. Just like you watch all those movies you do to see how a person will handle themselves with all the experiences they are going through, the same is true of the boys, and they let life take its course, because all of us must go the course if we are to be able to stand with the all-is. The lessons that Paul brought out were just the beginning, and now the end result. You are the true completeness, Dwayne, in the new nowness, she said. That's part of New Book 5 of the Adventurous series by Dwayne the Great Writer, available at lulu.com, or if you get a hold of Kelsey Lynn Brown, you can get PDFs. So I guess I'll just end the show for today with a song for each person to test for themselves and decide if they're going to pay attention to the new presentation or not. New